Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the post-fight live show here at the Mandatory. If you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO, and lots to get into this one. It's hella late on the East Coast where Brian is, almost 2 a.m. But I guess that's what happens when the fights are on the West Coast. But keep the comments coming because we are going to try to get to everything tonight, even though it is hella late. But Brian, let's start off with what we just saw in the main event. Terence Bud Crawford goes the distance against Madrimov. His first fight at 154 pounds, but he gets it done by unanimous decision. I had it scored 116-112 in favor for Bud. Your thoughts on his performance and how did you have it scored?
The performance we're gonna talk about it was interesting, right? I saw scores kind of all over the place, which I think a big part of that is just people being influenced by a DAZN broadcast and not Sean Porter, by Chris Mannix and Todd Grisham, who were giving Israil Madrimov a lot of credit for the things he was doing in this fight, which I found interesting because usually it would be the other way because, promotional reasons. We'll get to some promotional things later because this entire experience was something. I had it 116-112, Terence Crawford also. I think that the DAZN broadcasts, which we've talked about, which look, you and I are in the industry, like legitimately in the industry. So I'm not going to be out here slanderous toward another broadcast in that way because we know what it takes to put that together, preparation, the work, etc. But it's not my favorite. And this was a night where it's like, you know, you might have been better off just kind of watching the fight with the low volume so that you can see for yourself like what's actually happening there. I don't think Terence Crawford got enough credit for his body punching. I don't think he got enough credit for some of the traps that he was setting for Madrimov when Madrimov would overcommit and then he would tag him with the right hand. There was virtually no mention of Madrimov's eye being swelled up in way worse shape than Terence Crawford, and that was happening earlier in the fight than I think people thought. And then people were shitting on Chris Mannix's scorecards for multiple fights tonight, which I think this sort of comes with the territory. Your scorecards are going to get shitted on if you're on a broadcast. It just is what it is. But I did disagree with him in this particular fight because I don't think Madrimov was leading going into like round 10 or whatever it was. Like I didn't see that. I saw a 8-4 fight in favor of Terence Crawford. I thought he was winning rounds in the beginning. Madrimov sort of picked it up toward the middle, and Terence Crawford finished strong, particularly the last two rounds. I thought Madrimov also had some moments in those rounds, but that's pretty much what it was to me. And I thought it was a solid boxing match. I think some people were pissed off and like losing patience or whatever the case may be because they expected to see a show. But we'll get deeper into it. But to me, like this was just it was a good fight, and Madrimov's stock definitely elevates for me. Whereas Terence Crawford, we could extrapolate on that in a little bit, but I have some thoughts about that as well.
You know what? I thought Madrimov put on a really good performance. I had it scored as well as I mentioned earlier, 116-112. I thought Bud Crawford, when you are moving up a weight class, it's a little bit different. And Madrimov, he's a tricky fighter, the way he changes levels, the way his footwork is. So Bud Crawford, I thought fought very well against him, especially when you think about the fact that Madrimov also has power. So I do agree with you. Not my favorite broadcast in terms of the commentary, but I had Bud winning this one, and I thought he was landing more of the distinctive shots, like the tougher shots that he was landing. So I gave Bud 8 rounds in this one, and I thought he had a great performance. He didn't get the stoppage victory. There goes his streak. But I don't necessarily think, Brian, that Bud Crawford needed that in this performance because Madrimov is so tough. He's a tricky fighter. And I thought Bud boxed very well against him. And so I don't even care about the fact that that streak is over. The fact that he moved up to 154 pounds and put on a performance like this against a very tough fighter, I thought was extremely impressive. So for everyone that thought there wasn't enough action, I thought technically Bud Crawford put on a very good performance. And still, to me, he you could still argue that he's number one on that pound for pound list. I'm seeing the comments and we are going to get to that. Just before we get into the comments, because I know it's hella late, so I don't want to stay on this part so much. But what do you think is next for a guy like Terence Bud Crawford after his performance? Madrimov was talking about a rematch. There's not going to be a rematch because Bud Crawford is getting a little bit older. He's thinking about the biggest fight. I don't think a rematch would be the biggest fight. So, Bryan, where do you see Bud Crawford looking towards for his next fight?
You said you didn't need the knockout. And typically I don't either. But if
Do
the talk is
you agree with me?
you're gonna fight Canelo Alvarez, quote unquote, I kind of need to see you whoop ass as soon as you step into 154. So while I give Terence Crawford credit for putting on what I thought was a good performance, even though it was his first decision victory in 8 years, and the knockout streak ends at 11, I think that if you're going to fight Canelo Alvarez, coming off of this performance, I'm just going to be like, all right, Canelo Alvarez is probably going to be too big for him. Because now you can be in your head like, hey, does the power truly translate? Because he hit Madrimov with some shots, particularly to the body. He did not, there was not anything where he wobbled him or was close to a knockdown or whatever. And Terence Crawford puts everyone on his ass, everyone. And that did not happen. That wasn't even close to happening tonight. I thought he boxed very well and hit some big shots, but that wasn't something that happened. So to me, I am not, and you already know this because we talked about this before.
Yeah.
I had no interest virtually in him versus Canelo Alvarez just because like the spectacle would be interesting for sure, but the actual fight where it's two weight classes apart. This is, to me, there's weight classes for a reason, and while I
Mm-hmm.
do think there are too many weight classes, like Terence Crawford is not really a 154 fighter.
Not
He's a
naturally, no. And you
no,
could see that tonight.
147 was where he was at his best, and Canelo Alvarez is damn near 170, and we know on fight nights he's probably like closer to 190.
Well, for me, I didn't need the knockout tonight, just in general, for his first fight at 154 pounds. Also, take into consideration, I know Bud fights like once a year. It's been a minute since he's fought like 2 fights in a year, but it was also more than a year since he fought. So I was not mad at this performance when you think about that aspect. When it comes to the Canelo talk, I don't think I want to hear it right now. I don't want to hear it for a long time after what I saw tonight, in the sense that Canelo, depending on what weight they would have it, we're gonna get into what Turkey said because Turkey wants to make that fight.
But that dude,
However,
that guy.
we're gonna get into that. But for me, if I'm saying right now, and listen, I'm the biggest Bud fan, but depending on what weight class, I would take Canelo easily, just based off what I saw tonight. Him moving up to 154, having that performance was good, but when you're moving up to, I don't even know what they would agree to, 168, 160, like I don't know, because Canelo's not going to come down that much. Like, let's be
164,
serious, right?
maybe something
Catch
like
weight,
that. Yeah.
Canelo's different at that weight, right? Because Bud, that's not his natural weight class. So until then, I don't really want to hear that talk. I am open to him and Virgil Ortiz, though. I think that's a fight, that's a pay-per-view fight. And remember, before, when Virgil Ortiz was making weight at 147 pounds, the big talk was that him and Jerome Boots Ennis were going to be the kings of that division once Spence and Bud left. That's a fight at 154 pounds that is not only a blockbuster fight, but the storylines for it would be immaculate. And you also know the love that Virgil Ortiz gets. There's probably going to be a lot of haters on both sides, because sometimes things can get crazy when a Mexican American fights a black man in America. Like, it's not always the nicest comments.
Yeah.
However, that is a fight that I think people would want to be down to see. And I love the Virgil Ortiz and Bud Crawford fight.
I prefer the Boots Ennis fight, but I'll take the Virgil Ortiz fight. To me, those are probably the best two options on the table for Terence Crawford at this point. Because like I have no interest in the Spence rematch. I don't really need to see a Madrimov rematch. I'm good. And in terms of who he should fight next, it's probably just Boots or Virgil Ortiz, because you made an excellent point. Like, that's where we should sort of circle back to, is in the welterweight division. It was supposed to be These two guys, as in Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, are going to eventually move up to 154. Jaron Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz were positioned as next in line. One of them was supposed to fight Keith Thurman at some point and potentially beat him, and that obviously that didn't happen because Keith Thurman, doesn't really fight anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at Virgil Ortiz, like now that we've seen him at 154, yeah, I think that'll be a really marketable fight. He has a fight coming up too. So like this
Yeah,
is
next
something
week.
that you can make.
Next
Yeah.
week he has a fight coming up. So it's one of those things where I feel like that's the fight to make. Let's quickly get to this comment. Be Up just asked me,
Why?
Shantelle, do you have a Pornhub? No, but I bet your mom does. All right, let's get
Why do
let's
you-
get not today, it's too late. Okay. By the way, guys, let's get to some comments now. I just wasn't playing.
You gotta
Let's
go
get
to
to
Tyrone
something.
first.
Yeah, if you donate to the show, we get to your comment right away. Tyrone, friend of the show, thank you so much. Great night of boxing. It definitely was. Brian knows I'm with the smoke at all times here.
Yeah.
Let's get to our good friend of the show, Hustle Man.
Some dudes wish you were with the smoke more often. I also do want to mention Terence Crawford is older than Canelo Alvarez, though Canelo Alvarez started boxing earlier. Canelo Alvarez, yeah, is 34, and Terence Crawford will be 37 in September. And part of me watching this fight was also like, fighting once a year. Is he, he's gonna be 37 soon, like, and he's moving up in weight. I'm like, oh, maybe this is the start of a little bit of a
Downwards
decline.
trend.
A little bit of a
But
decline.
he looked really good though. He still looked good. Like
Decline
I know it's not
decline as in he's not the same. And we don't know this yet. Like we'll see when he fights again in a year. But when it's
man,
like
I hope he fights sooner. Like
Me
I
too.
hope it's not next summer.
But like, when it's like you start beating guys and it's not like Floyd Mayweather toward the end was still better than everybody else, but it didn't look the way it did years prior, where it was like just dominance damn near every round, knockouts and things of that nature. It just gets different as you age. So I wonder if Terence Crawford is reaching into that phase of his career.
Yeah, you never know. I think we just need to see another performance from him at 154 pounds, and I definitely don't want to wait till next summer. Hustle Man, good friend of the show, 118, 111 sounded like Sean Porter scorecards tonight. You got the emoji of covering the face. Our good friend Mateo. Crawford won't beat Canelo. From what I saw tonight, I would agree with that because it was also in a higher weight class. That wouldn't be his natural weight class, so I would rock with Canelo for that. But hey, man, that could easily change.
But if I'm Canelo, I'm trying to make that fight.
Now I am. Now I'm Canelo. Like, yeah, dude, that's a different type of legacy right there. Tyrone the Great, my score was 9-3, so you did have Bud kind of running away with it. I'm not mad at that. I had an 8-4, so
8-4 also.
Yeah. I don't I'm not mad at that. I am PK13, a very good friend of the show. I am not sure Crawford won 7 rounds. That means it was either a draw or Crawford lost. People on the DAZN broadcast also, I am PK13 was like, I think I forgot who it was. They were like, it could have been a draw. It could have been a draw. For me, I thought I had an 8-4. Maybe I got to watch it again. But I thought Bud won that convincingly to me.
I can't give Madrimov 6 rounds.
Yeah.
Like that's tough.